even after Rendon did his $254 or $45 million contract for 7 years, I mean, the man did a great investment, and I think he was thinking ahead, whether he's injury or not prone. But the guys bought a Newport Coast home for $6.1 million in 2020. I don't know exactly like the position of the home, where the lot is looking out in terms of the backyard, if it's looking directly at the ocean or if there's some hillside to it. But basically, the numbers I ran, he bought $6.1 million. Today, it's worth about $10 million, right? Without the greatest ocean view. Then 4 years, he's already gone up. If it's at 10 million, about 63%, which is unreal.
You said this is the best location in the world.
One of them.
But how important is that location?
I mean, they're no longer building homes along the ocean. Like the scarcity is real. Like you can't just build a home along the ocean because it's already all filled up. As far as like Southern California goes.
Is that a private beach area, or if you wanted to go to the beach, is it going to be public beaches, or right down?
It's mainly all public beaches. There are some areas around Pelican Point where you have more of the private beach because you have to go through a specific walkway to go to the ocean, and you can't really get there unless you're on a boat. But everything is public technically. But as far as access, though, there are those private access points if you're not on a boat. So yeah. But for him, if he's based out of that particular area inland, then he doesn't have, to answer your question, he doesn't have that access. He would have to go a little bit further down.
Is that area like a high traffic area during like holiday periods, like 4th of July and things like that? That section of the beach?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, it can be.
Compared to something like Mission Bay, or less?
Oh, way less. Mission Bay, San Diego, way less. Yeah, it's way less.
Yeah. Sorry, Mission Beach. Yeah.
Mission Bay, Mission Beach, yeah. Yeah, less. So, I mean, it's Orange County. That's like prime real estate. So is San Diego, but Orange County has always been a little bit more expensive, more commercialized, more, in a way, more elite people, I guess you could say. San Diego, from my surfer friends, from what I've talked to, it's more of like that original beach town that they don't want to change it to that like elite way of living, I guess you could say. But it's still got beautiful beaches, beautiful homes, 20 million plus. So either way, I think you're in a good spot. Now, just kind of
I have some friends in La Jolla and Del Mar that wouldn't be happy to hear that you said they weren't elite. Just an FYI.
I know. There's definitely a ton of elite people in San Diego, for sure. I'm just saying in terms of Orange County, just like one step above, slightly. But La Jolla is right there neck and neck to Newport in a way. And then we have another individual, Chris, podcast host, who also made a great investment in real estate. So we're going to go over all his experiences there. 3 balls, 2 strikes, pressure is on. This is where we discuss real estate, property improvement, and business. Together, we'll strategize on how to win. Welcome to the Full Count. Welcome back to the Full Count podcast. I got Chris on here. We're going to be talking about Anthony Rendon's injury, which is just terrible for my Angels. As you can see, I'm still supporting him. Mike Trout is now injured too. Stephen A. Smith had some terrible things to say about him, so we'll be talking about that. And Anthony Rendon, although he's injured, he made a great investment with, as we all know, this is a real estate podcast in baseball. He made a great investment in Newport Beach. And then we have another individual, Chris, podcast host, who also made a great investment in real estate. Finally made the move away from California and into Georgia.
Yeah. I just bought a house.
So of all days, on 4/20, April 20th, as we all know, 4/20 is a day to celebrate for some people. It wasn't for Anthony Rendon. That's when he got his injury on his hamstring. And it was just absolutely mind-blowing to know that this guy has not played 60 games or more for the Angels since he signed on in 2019, 2020. And he got paid, I think it was about $254 million for 7 years. So this guy is making some bank. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, Chris, but that game was, I mean, this guy, Rendon and Trout and some of the other Angels have been doing so much better than we all anticipated. But now with these 2 guys out, it's just damn horrible.
And, the problem with injuries is it's kind of like one of the worst feelings in the world. As you know, one of our other podcast hosts, Kurt Hayer, he's experienced injuries in his career, and those can be major setbacks. I've only experienced, very minimal. I've never been a pro athlete, but I do know I was training for a softball game, where our company was going to beat the other company's softball game. And a week before, I like tore part of the muscles in my calf, and
Oh,
I basically healed it up really quickly, and I was able to play the softball game. But I was thinking about going against steroids because I'm competitive. Even if it's just a company versus company game, I'm gonna explore all options. But
right.
anyways, back to Anthony Rendon. I just thought I'd throw that anecdote in because I do know that injuries are just like so demotivating. They just take
Yeah.
everything from you.
It does. I mean, it took away a lot of the enthusiasm from the team because the Angels have been playing at the time much better than we all anticipated, considering, they weren't likely to go into World Series, let alone do good. But they were doing good until this injury, and it was kind of a domino effect for the Angels. But even after Rendon did his, I think it was like $254 or $45 million contract for 7 years. I mean, the man did a great investment, and I think he was thinking ahead, whether he's injury or not prone. But the guys bought a Newport Coast home for 6.1 million in 2020. That home today, as I was looking into it, although I don't know exactly like the position of the home, where the lot is looking out in terms of the backyard, if it's looking directly at the ocean or if there's some hillside to it. But basically, the numbers I ran, he bought 6.1 million. Today, it's worth about 10 million, right? Without the greatest ocean view. With a really good ocean view, it's worth about 15 million. So within four years, he's already gone up. If it's at 10 million, about 63%, which is unreal. So this guy he knew what he was doing. At least he had a great mindset for investment. And I think that's why real estate is one of the best investments you can do. So I just want to share a little bit of some of those photos and a little bit of information about him. I'm going to share my screen here.
Are you familiar with, do you have the numbers on the top of your head about the square footage we're talking about?
Yeah, so as far as square footage goes, it was a 4-bed, 5-bath, or 4.5-bath, 4,653 square feet. And it's a big house, right? It's a big house with a pool and Newport Coast, Mediterranean-like feel to it. Honestly, it's one of the best places to live on earth, I think, in the United States anyways. And it was designed by an architect here, built 2017 by a guy named Bob White, who's in Laguna Beach, but he's building homes in terms of styling, the architecture all over the country. This is it right here. The backyard. Here's the dining area, kitchen. I couldn't tell what this is right here. It looks like a wall that they're looking out at, but I have no idea if maybe the view of the ocean might be here, which it looks like it could be. But the positioning of where the house looks out to is like very important when it comes to properties with a view. And then you got the pool here as well. So this guy has made a killer return on investment when it comes to buying property. And if you can invest in property, I think that's one of the best things you can do. Whether you're a baseball player or not, buy real estate, right?
Yep. And what would you say, like, all right, basically that house is almost the same size as my current house. We'll get into that in a little bit later.
Yeah.
But
we got to talk about you being a homeowner.
How important, you said this is the best location in the world.
One of them.
But how important is that location?
I mean, they're no longer building homes along the ocean. Like the scarcity is real. Like you can't just build a home along the ocean because it's already all filled up as far as like Southern California goes in terms of where it's zoned and allowed to build. Aside from that, I mean, you could always go inland and build properties, but anything along the coast, that's it. So the fact that he bought this in 2020 for 6.1 and now it's worth a minimum of 10 million plus.
No, I mean, it's great.
It's huge, dude. It's great. Yeah, it is great. And I think he's walking distance from Crystal Cove Park, according to that article. Traded.com or whatever this company is did a shows kind of like where like the details and whereabouts the lot is located or the house is located. He bought it directly from a builder, from what I understand. And if I can zoom in here. So here's Newport Coast. Crystal Cove Park is right here. Anything right here is very expensive. Everything here is very expensive. Let me go back. It's very expensive, but right here, the closer you are to Crystal Cove Park, the more expensive. According to this, though, it looks like he's a little bit more inland in the Newport Coast community, which is guard gated. Still very expensive, but I think if he's up here and has an okay view, it's worth 10 million. If he's more down here with a great ocean view, it's worth about 15 million. So large return on investment. And I thought it was worth sharing that, considering he might be not feeling well about his life, being on the injured list, but at least he has a sick pad with a lot of money and equity.
Is that a private beach area, or if you wanted to go to the beach, is it going to be public beaches, or right down?
It's mainly all public beaches. There are some areas around Pelican Point where you have more of the private beach because you have to go through a specific walkway to go to the ocean, and you can't really get there unless you're on a boat. But everything is public technically. But as far as access, though, there are those private access points if you're not on a boat. So yeah, but for him, if he's based out of that particular area inland, then he doesn't have, to answer your question, he doesn't have that access. He would have to go a little bit further down.
Is that area like a high traffic area during like holiday periods, like 4th of July and things like that? That section of the beach.
Yeah, I mean a little bit. Yeah, it can be.
Compared to something like Mission Bay, or less traffic?
Oh, way less. Mission Bay, San Diego, way less. Yeah, it's way less.
Yeah. Sorry, Mission Beach. Yeah.
Mission Bay, Mission Beach. Yeah. Yeah, less. So, I mean, it's Orange County. That's like prime real estate. So is San Diego, but Orange County has always been a little bit more expensive, more commercialized, more, in a way, more elite people, I guess you could say. San Diego, from my surfer friends, from what I've talked to, it's more of like that original beach town that they don't want to change it to that like elite way of living, I guess you could say. But it's still got beautiful beaches, beautiful homes, 20 million plus. So either way, I think you're in a good spot. Now, just kind of
I have some friends in La Jolla and Del Mar that wouldn't be happy to hear that you said they weren't elite. Just an FYI.
I know. There's definitely a ton of elite people in San Diego, for sure. I'm just saying in terms of Orange County, just like one step above, slightly. But La Jolla is right there neck and neck to Newport in a way. But going over to Mike Trout, did you also see his injury by chance, his knee? Did you look at that?
I did not, but I'd be happy to watch it and give an honest live reaction if we have it.
Well, we do have it on Full Count Podcast, or our clip. I think it got like over 6,000 views. But it doesn't necessarily show him sliding into home and limping right away, because that's kind of where it happened. He slid into home. He didn't feel too well. You could kind of tell, but that's exactly around the point where he got injured, which was a few days after Rendon. So it was like a domino effect, unfortunately, where these guys, the best players, I guess you could say, are just completely out. And Stephen A. Smith wanted to go above and beyond and bash the poor guy, which was something I want to get your take on. I'm hoping you don't watch this clip yet. That way I can get your reaction and get the viewers. If you've seen it, viewers, please comment below, like, and tell us what you think. Especially I want to hear what Chris has to say about this.
I've grown disgusted with his lack of availability. It makes me question. I know he looks the part. What the hell are you doing to take care of yourself? Damn, it's baseball. What are we talking about here? It's not football. It's not boxing. It's not the UFC. You're not running up and down the court 94 feet basketball for 82 nights a year. It's baseball. Half the time y'all out there not out there, chewing on pumpkin seeds or something, waiting for a fly ball to come your way. How the hell is he always hurt? I don't understand this. It drives me nuts when I see baseball players get hurt. What is it that you're doing with yourself physically that you can't stay healthy? Playing baseball. Now you get hit by a pitcher, so that's different. I get all of that. But these oblique injuries, you're running around the base and catch a hamstring injury, you're running out for a fly ball, and all of a sudden something gets tweaked. What the hell is going on? I think you talking about karma with the New York Knicks. How about this? How about this, doggy? Maybe it's karma for him that he stayed with the Angels. Maybe it's karma with him that he signed with that damn moribund franchise. Maybe you should have went someplace else where you're going to be relevant.
So, of course, people were not too happy about that. point, right? As far as like Angel fans and other MLB players, that the fact that he kept bashing a bunch of MLB people about getting injured all the time. What were your thoughts on that? Being hopefully the first time you've heard that.
Well, you know, when Stephen A. Smith is not on his television programming and he's doing interviews, he's actually like a very nuanced guy. And, you know, it seems like he's always challenging his own ideas. But this is junk food TV. That's the whole point. The whole point is to get clipped and to get people outraged, you know.
Talking about it like right
you know, he's obviously not really putting himself in an athlete's shoes at that point. Stephen A. Smith was never an athlete. But he has a long career as a journalist, you know. But it's clear that when you're like this high performance athlete where every part of your body is high tuned, that even just running quickly, especially once you hit past 30, you know, you can just pull something. I mean, it happens all the time. And for any athlete. And so how could you get injured? You're still like performing to be the best in a field where I don't know how many, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are trying to compete with you to get your spot, you know, throughout the world. And so Mike Trout's just, he's obviously one of the greatest to do it. And whenever you're trying your hardest to do something, you're going to get injured, especially in, you know, in the physical realm. When you're an athlete, you're trying to compete more than anyone else. It's like, you're zoned out, tunnel vision. You're running full force towards something. You're sliding into a fixed point. This is going to happen, you know, especially for someone who's really good and really dominant.
Right. I mean, the guy is a journalist for sure, but you're right. When it comes to these type of particular descriptions and how he's being loud and he wants people to talk about it. So he's being kind of an asshole, right? Stephen A. Smith, but he's doing it just to get clicks and just to have, maybe it even helps Mike Trout in a way because everyone starts talking about it. But in this particular case, it's negative, unfortunately. But I mean, I guess that's just the game of, you know, TV. But it's too bad because I wanted him, the poor guy, to actually get somewhere hopefully this year, if not next year. And the fact that he's out all of 2024 is just a big year for all of us. And now we have Cole Tucker, who just got moved up from AAA. Now he's in the MLB, but we'll have to see how he does in general as a player.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, and Stephen A. wouldn't be where he is today. Like, how well do you think First Take would be doing if like his take instead was like, you know, it's just really unfortunate this happened to him. I hope the best for him and his family. All right, Max, next subject. Yeah. Like, that's not the business. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the business. One of them is supposed to take a side. The other one's supposed to take another side. And they're supposed to be arguing out of passion and not logic at all. And that's what they're doing. And I think when I was younger, I used to watch First Take or have it on in the background and really enjoy that because it was like drama without the drama, you know? It's like reality show for men. But, you know, after a while, it just kind of gets old.
Yeah, but in that case, if people watch the whole thing through, the clip, nobody like debates him or counters what he has to say. So they kind of, I mean, it's his show, I guess. So they just let him run with what he wants to say.
Well, what's somebody going to say? Like, oh, he never gets injured. Well, I guess someone
could have said like, "Oh, it's easy for you." They could have just made fun of him. Like, it's easy for you to say Stephen A. Smith.
Well, I've
never been an athlete, you know.
I think that's happened so much in that show, and plus Max Kellerman is sitting across from him. He's also never been an athlete, so he never really has that. He can't ever be like, "You're not an athlete. What are you talking about?" You know, because they both haven't been athletes, right? But sometimes you'll see people, you know, historically you've seen people come on that show, like. I remember the Legion of Boom, the Seahawks, basically Skip Bayless had called them, you know, overrated and stuff. And then they won the Super Bowl and they definitely had to eat their own words. And in that case, there were athletes saying, you guys have never even been an athlete. What do you know about this? Mark Cuban's been on there. Whenever they tried to talk about how LeBron lost the finals against them, the Mavericks didn't win it. And Mark Cuban just destroyed them. I think it was specifically Skip Bayless he destroyed. But this is the same thing that keeps going on these shows, and that's why there's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 shows out there that are basically replicas of this, like Fox Sports.
Right.
There's a couple other ones, and men just like to see other men get passionate. It's kind of like at work, whenever you have a Cowboys fan in the office, and everybody likes to just talk crap to the Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that show is.
Right. Okay. All right. So you don't really take it a negative way. Maybe I kind of did because I'm an Angel fan, so maybe that's why. If it was talking about the Padres, like another guy on the Padres, then it'd be different. Maybe.
Well, I just think if you're the best player and you're on not a great team, and it comes with it, because people like to say things like he's the greatest player of all time. And then so it's just easy cannon fodder. Like, okay,
Right.
when have you proven it?
Well, that's what I was talking to Sway about a couple episodes ago. How he was asking me if I think Trout should leave the Angels. And as much as I like the Angels, I told him yes, he should go to get a ring, get the World Series. And Sway's position was like, no, he should stay. He's living the greatest life in Newport Beach with the greatest sun, 30 minutes away from the stadium. He should just stay at the Angels. But the way I see it is, if the Angels aren't going to go anywhere, then he should take off and go back to the East Coast. I think he's in New Jersey.
Saying that you want him to go to the Yankees.
Yes. I want him to go to the Yankees, play there, get a ring, and then move back to Newport Beach. I mean, that's the best of both worlds for the guy. He's got so much more years ahead of him. He could just retire in Newport Beach and have a ring.
The life of having 2 baseball teams is insane.
I know, dude. I wonder if there's more people out there like myself that have 2 teams, Angels and
Yankees. Do you know what this hat is?
I can't really see it from. I can't really notice it. No, what is it?
All right. So I moved to Atlanta. I'm still a Padres fan. I'm not going to be a Braves fan, right?
I mean, they're a good team. They got swept by the Dodgers, but yeah, you're right. Padres are better. Right?
I only have one team at a time for any sport. I don't really respect people who have more than one team. Anyways,
so
it's like having 2 wives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but one's on the East Coast and one's on the West Coast. In this case, for my baseball team.
I mean, imagine having to divorce 2 wives. You lose the other half of your stuff. I mean, it's insane. But anyways, I already have a football team, the Saints, which is the Falcons' sworn enemies. Mm-hmm. But from San Diego and New Orleans, and we never had a basketball team. So this is the Atlanta Hawks. And the cool thing is, as a Padres fan, nobody could ever call a Padres fan a bandwagoner until they win a World Series, because they have like the worst record in MLB history.
Right.
And then Atlanta Hawks are kind of like the Padres of basketball. So no worries there. I came in when the market was low, hoping to see a stock increase pretty soon. But yeah, now Atlanta Hawks fan.
So what is that, the Atlanta Hawks hat then, to answer the question? Okay. Nice. But have you been to a Braves game since you moved out there? What was it, like 3 months ago, 2 months ago?
Yeah, we moved out here the middle of March. Haven't been to a game yet, no.
You gotta go.
The Padres are coming like later in the year. I think maybe like July or August.
Okay, so Sway says that he doesn't ever go to he likes going to the Angel games more than the Dodger games because of distance, I think, and it's just easier to get in and get out. He's a Dodger fan, of course, but he'll never rep the Dodger gear at the Angel Stadium because he has his kids with him. He doesn't want to have confrontation with drunk people, right? I kind of get that. Actually, I get that. But for you, let's say in July, like you were saying, the Padres come into town to play at the Braves, and you're there, obviously in Georgia. What are you going to rep?
Well, look, Padres haven't ruined anyone's dreams in the World Series stage, so I'm not afraid of people at game. Dodger fans generally wouldn't even mess with a Padres fan if they were not talking shit to them,
Right? Yeah, I guess maybe.
Yeah, I think also I'm banking on Southern California fans. I believe are California fans in general, or are probably more violent than most other states.
You think so, really?
Oh yeah. When I'm talking about violent, I mean drinking, and then fighting. Talking like if you go into the bathroom, and look, Sway's probably more of an expert because he's been to all these stadiums. But from my experience growing up, in California, like I just see people almost get in fights all the time about the dumbest stuff. Like I remember one time someone was in like the bathroom at like I think it was when the Rams, their first preseason game, when they moved back to LA.
Right.
And I remember being in the bathroom and some guy was like, somebody was wearing a Cowboys shirt and he was saying, somebody wearing a Rams shirt, like, your team sucks, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh yeah, where you from, SA? And then like, he's wearing a Cowboys jersey and he's like, I'm from Compton. And then like, they were just about to get in a fight over something really, really, like, these are grown men, you know what I mean?
I think that's sports in general, though. No, you just think it's a Southern California thing more than other states.
Historically, specifically, I guess I'm talking about the NFL, and then my experience with Dodgers fans coming up to Petco, like there would be people warning me for my life whenever the Dodgers came. Like other Padres fans, hey, please don't say this stuff. You're gonna get hurt. Blah blah. You know what I mean? Like there's never been a state that I've been to where you go to a game and you can't talk crap about the other team, and people are like, hey, be careful. You're gonna get hurt. Like what? What are we talking about? We're just talking crap about sports teams. That's why we're here. We want our team to beat the other team. Why is there violence part of the equation? But I do think it's smart. Or I think Sway is being very intelligent by kind of he's being smart about it. I mean, I will.
Yeah, because he's got children, so I get it. His wife, so
you know what? I saw this one thing. It was this is one of like the most. This is what painted me on California sports wins. I was walking. I'm not a Chargers fan. I'm a Saints fan, but I was walking up to go see a Chargers Raiders game in San Diego, of course. And in front of me, there's like this, middle-aged guy, just a regular guy, and his 4 or 5-year-old son. I mean, he's old enough to walk, but he's super young son. And they're both wearing Chargers gear. And there was like these 2 huge overweight Raiders fans. And one of them, they're walking kind of towards each other. And one of the Raiders fans like throws up the middle fingers to the little kid directly in his face. It was like,
oh, wow, dude.
F the Chargers. And I saw that, I'm just like, man, like what are you doing? Like you're a complete nihilist. You have no morals. And I get it. Your logo, the Raiders, they're supposed to be pirates or something, but you're not. You're gonna go later on. You're gonna go be a plumber tomorrow. You're gonna wake up.
Who knows? I mean, being a plumber is a pretty hard job, so who knows?
No, it is. My whole point is like tomorrow you have a 9 to 5. You're not raiding islands. My whole point is like you work for somebody tomorrow. You're not a raider in real life. And like that little kid is just going to have an experience with his dad. You know what I mean? Like I just
shit forever, which sucks.
Yeah, I just feel like that. Like it doesn't represent your organization well. What do we like about The Godfather, the mafia movies? They do illegal things, but they have respect and class. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
There you go.
Now, either way, I want you to update me once you go to the Brave Stadium, and I want you to wear the Padre gear and take a photo so we know it's real and you actually did it. Right?
I'll either wear Padre gear, Dodger gear, or
at the Brave Stadium,
or Raiders gear. We'll see.
Just do either one.
Go find some kids to ruin their life. No, I'm just kidding.
So what's it like now being a homeowner? What was it in general? What is it like being a homeowner? Your podcast room is amazing. And then what was the experience buying, like the final chapter?
Yeah, so I still have a lot of work on the podcast room.
Nice.
But
look
like
at that.
I've already told you about my plans, and then
it's beautiful. Oh, you got a window right there? Oh, nice. Yeah. And you got recessed lights. What's the material of the floors? Is it laminate, hardwood?
Oh, it's hardwood. So the person who used to live here is a carpenter, and he wasn't ever planning on moving. He actually told me that. Oh shit, we zoomed in too much. They weren't planning on moving for whatever reason. His wife's from the Netherlands, and they had to move real quick. And so when I messaged him on Instagram, telling him basically thank you for this place, he added a whole extra floor down here. It used to be frames. This whole downstairs area, it's probably like 1,000 square feet. So he basically got this office, this really nice kitchen, and then area for a pool table outside my office. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go with the pool table, and then there's a guest bedroom down there, and then there's washer and dryer hookups. So basically, if I have friends over or something, they have their own separate area down on the terrace, away from everything, and they can live their lives. And then whenever they want to, come hang out, meet up in the middle in the living room and all that stuff. And Priya's office is upstairs.
So it's separate. You guys have separation.
Yeah, we have separate offices. We could basically have 4 extra people, in beds. We both have our own office, and a nice backyard with an upper deck, so 2 levels of decking. And we would nobody's sleeping on a couch in that scenario, right? And we really, to be honest, the value of the condo we left behind in San Diego is probably the same value of this place.
That's insane.
And
what is that bedroom count there versus San Diego?
Well, one in San Diego, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And here, yeah, it's that's the San Diego 1 bedroom, 1 bath condo, right? With a balcony in a good area of San Diego.
Yeah.
Like North Park area. So a great location, but obviously tight quarters, 650 square feet, right?
That's
very tight quarters.
But now
over here, we're at 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and 4 full bathrooms. They all have showers, and 3,400 square feet, maybe 3,500, I forget.
Okay, that's a massive improvement on size.
Yeah, and a really decent sized backyard, decking, front yard, 2-car garage, for basically the same price. And we're within Atlanta. We're in the city of Atlanta.
Atlanta?
So we're in Atlanta. So it's not like we're in a suburb of Atlanta,
Okay.
And so you think about that, it really puts it down almost to terms, is living in San Diego really
that worth it?
Living in a place that's 10 times less? 10 times less.
In terms of size.
And when you're in, I had this kind of revelation before we even decided to move when we were in San Antonio. And I was like, you know what? In San Diego and LA, or even San Francisco, our housing, because my cousin had just bought this huge house with a really big, a couple acre plot of land in Texas, right? And I was thinking to myself, we don't get paid 10 times as much in San Diego. No. Like most people are barely like able to survive. You need someone else in San Diego and Southern California. If you don't have a solid roommate, or you're in a relationship with someone that you live with, you're not going to survive unless you're like the top 10%, top 15%.
Right.
You're just not going to be able to survive.
But let's remind the audience, you love San Diego, right? Like, has that changed now? Are you okay living there? Like, do you like living in Atlanta now, considering everything you just said? Like, if you had the choice to move back to San Diego, let's say have an extra bedroom, would you still choose San Diego because you love it so much, or would you stay in Atlanta considering you have a bigger place now and cost of living?
It's honestly really hard to say, but I will say that my love of San Diego is really reflective of like 2013, 2014. I think, even before we knew we were going to move, I started to feel like the middle class was being squeezed from the bottom and the top. Just to go back to my other point, the cost of living compared to the income ratio is among the worst in the country. And then, so not only do you have to worry about this growing homeless population that $20 billion is getting thrown at from the governor, but you feel like you're getting squeezed from every direction, every price, all the prices are increased every direction, whether you're getting food at the grocery store. I just felt like the squeeze was so strict on us that we were starting to get to a point to where I don't want to say we weren't comfortable. It's just unless we substantially increased our income to the point to where we were, and we have actually, but it would just have to be such an amount that I'm going to be living kind of close to Anthony Rendon. You know what I mean? Like, when we talk about it takes money to make money, it's not a crazy thing that he purchased that house. He's literally about to pay off that house with the investment itself. Get it. It's going to happen in less than a decade, right? So that house is going to pay for itself. If you have that kind of money, that's such a great investment. But if you don't, I'll just tell you this right now: there hasn't been a day yet where I thought, like, man, I wish I was in San Diego right now. That hasn't happened.
That's great news, because I thought maybe you were going to miss it. But what you're saying about the middle class being squeezed, that's a sure thing happening all across the nation. Like, it's not just California or places like New York or Texas. It's everywhere. But I think in places like where you're at, you feel the impact a lot less because of housing for the most part, because you still can't run away from inflation, but you can run away from stupidity of the governor, for example, raising the gas prices, making it harder for, being a landlord or a homeowner or even a renter and being around a bunch of homelessness and crime. That's where you can benefit by going out there. And the fact that you're comfortable with that, being out there when you used to love San Diego, is good to hear, especially for people that want to escape high cost areas. Because I think eventually these high cost areas like California, more so Southern California, I think it's going to be a point where you just got to have a lot of money. Like, you got to have a ton of money.
Well, I just want to kind of go back to what you just said, because my point is this. Yes, everywhere things are costing more money. Mm-hmm. But those places, you can still buy real estate 10 times less than you can in Southern California or San Francisco or Seattle or Portland, right? And do you think that most of those people are making 10 times less than most of the people in San Diego or in those places I mentioned? No, they're not. So the squeeze may be there. I'll tell you what I have noticed. Groceries cost almost the same as San Diego. Like, I haven't seen a big hit there. The gas is way cheaper. Gas is way cheaper. Most things, when I go to a retail store, it's the same price. It's not that much different, right? It's our biggest expense where we live is the biggest change.
Housing.
Housing costs way less. And it's kind of like a breath of fresh air to be like, I can invite somebody from out of town over. Okay. Before, almost anywhere I lived in San Diego in the 15, 16 years, almost anywhere. Like, I wasn't like inviting. Well, actually, I never invited my family over. I only invited friends from out of town because I wasn't going to be like, hey, Dad, come see me, sleep on a couch.
Yeah.
Like, 80% of people, maybe 90% of people in that area, like, they don't actually just have an extra room. We have 2 people living in a 5-bedroom house right now. It's pretty insane. So
huge, dude. I mean,
but
what are you doing?
I don't want to discourage you. The people listening to this in California right now are not going to move to Atlanta. So don't worry about anything. They're not going to heed my words at all.
Well, some will, or they'll move to Texas or Florida.
Your customer base is going to look. No, the truth is because I know it because I've been there. There's something magical about living in California We talked about this before. You feel like you're just like, no, this is the prime place. You feel good, and you're willing to sacrifice space, and I get it.
For the
I will
beauty.
say I don't feel like I live in a magical place. I just feel like I have a magical house in a average, normal place. You know what I mean? We're close to an airport. There's a lot of magical places on the other end of that flight.
I guess we have to review this in a year from now, but how you like living there. But I want to ask you this about being a homeowner. Like, is there a form of pride of ownership of just being in your own home now? And also, do you feel a sense of, I know you're relatively new there in the area, but do you feel a sense of like belonging to the community where you want to be more involved, more pay attention more to city council, what they're doing in your particular region, mayors, things like that? Do you feel like now you're more invested because of skin in the game? Because that's how I felt when I first bought a place.
Well, I've always been worried. You know this about me, and maybe we'll tell the story another time, but I've always had concerns about security and stuff. It's always been something that I highlight. I spend a lot of time learning about surveillance and things of that nature. That's continued here, but a sense of community, I would say, because of the neighborhood we moved into, our HOA fund is really cheap, like talking less than $100 a month.
That's
And
great.
it all goes to events of our neighborhood. And what I mean by events, like ice cream social, next month. We have this private trail that connects the other streets in our neighborhood. And, so it'll be like last weekend or the weekend before that, it was clean up the trail and then ice cream social. And then there's like parties that are thrown. And everyone here has surveillance cameras and everyone's really worried about security. We don't want people coming in the neighborhood who don't belong. So I'll say in that regard, there is a sense of community because of the HOA. It's not like an overbearing HOA. Our last HOA in San Diego, it like increased 40%, I think, and like it was just overnight. And the problem with that HOA was everyone sitting on the board already paid off their condos. They're super old. They're all living on Social Security, and that's their only expense in their retirements. And so that's probably not reflective of Southern California. So I don't want this to be an Atlanta versus Southern California thing, but this HOA in general is great. As far as voting goes, I still, even though I moved to a state that's politics is a little different, I'm still in a city. It's going to be very similar.
The state's politics in Georgia is a lot different than here in California.
No. So the state's politics is a lot different than the city's politics of Atlanta. So Georgia is different than Atlanta.
Right. I didn't know they were that different, though.
Well, Bonnie was for quite a bit, way before I moved to Atlanta. And I'm just going to say that Atlanta has some of the most entertaining politicians I've ever seen in my entire life. And I spent a lot of time learning about them, and I'm heavily entertained by this whole process. But the question is entertainment good for government? Probably not.
No, probably not.
But
that's what people want to. That's how you get your campaign funding, and that's how you win. Unfortunately, you just got to be an entertainer, and that's the same for like Stephen A. Smith. He's a journalist, or so he might have been more so, but now he just wants to entertain, and he's just a showman. But
Andrew, have you paid attention at all to that? Huh? Have you paid attention to the Fonnie Wells trial or anything?
No.
Hey, a lot of people haven't, so I'm not saying that. But I would say that if you saw that, it's a different kind of entertainment. It's corruption like I've never seen it in my entire life. And it's hilarious.
Are you finding yourself more involved? You said that you're looking into the Georgia politics because now you live there, but has that always been a thing, or do you find yourself even more interested in it because you live there? And if so, I think that's because you're a homeowner now, and you feel like
I still feel involved in the politics. I'll research every candidate that I vote for, of course, but living in any kind of city um, with a large amount of people, I think that everybody ends up kind of thinking the same way. That just seems like what happens, right? Everybody ends up thinking the same way when you're in a city, and maybe it's everybody thinks the same way when you're rural. I'm not really sure. I haven't lived a rural life in my entire life, but how involved would I get? I really don't know. I feel like I don't. I feel like I guess in Atlanta still. We'll put it that way. I'm still trying to figure out. I'm still using Google Maps to get to work.
Right.
I don't really recognize a lot of this stuff, so I'm not there yet. Will I get involved? I don't know. I think I'd feel better if we were like in a suburb. I would get more involved with that sort of thing. But for now, I'm just going to research the candidates and hope for the best.
Well, when I say involved, I mean like literally just pay attention to what's going on. That's it, and vote, and that's it. Not like
Yeah.
you're gonna
Okay.
be the next man.
Yeah, and I am. And the one thing I thought about doing was doing Habitat for Humanity. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's basically, for anybody who doesn't know, you can sign up for this program if you're a certain income threshold, and you have to build your own house. They'll give you the materials, they'll sign a project manager, and then you can sign up for it to volunteer to help people build their house.
That's beautiful. That's great.
Yeah, you just go for a day or whatever. It's going to be a 10-day build, but you can just show up for one of the days. But I figured it'd be a good place to meet people who also feel like giving back to people. So you're going to meet quality people, like people who are going to spend their time helping someone out.
Right.
And construction is pretty fun. So especially if it's not your full-time job. So I think it'll be a good thing. So that's one thing I'm going to be. So I would say for community involvement, that's kind of what I looked into. Is that? But Atlanta is gentrifying at a very quick rate, and in fact, we gained 25%. Sorry, we get $25,000 equity, like right after the appraiser came through and we closed. So it was almost an immediate gain in equity on our place.
That's awesome.
And the people who lived before us, they owned it. I think they bought it in 2019, and it increased 40%
Damn, that's
from
a lot.
2020 to 2024. So I think we got a good spot. We have a lot of good neighbors. The HOA is designed. The goal of the HOA is to ensure property value increases. So there's rules.
Interesting. How do they do that?
So there's like all the rules are custom around that, right? So one of the rules is you can't just have your garage open unless you're like getting your car in and out or something. You can't just leave your garage door open and show everybody your trash. And obviously painted colors, you have to get things approved. Like if you want to get a jacuzzi outside or a pool, you gotta get all that approved. Right before we moved in, about a month before, there were squatters living next door. Blackstone owned the property, and squatters moved in.
No, really?
Yeah, and they had like 20-something dogs in there, and they were able to get the police to get them out, to force them out, because I think one of the squatters, if I'm not mistaken, assaulted someone in the neighborhood. And Blackstone it seemed like, and I'm not really sure, I haven't talked to the Blackstone representatives or anything, but it seemed like they weren't necessarily as, they weren't hurrying up on getting these people out. They seemed like they didn't care, from what I heard.
Blackstone owned the property before the squatters got in there, or you're saying they
it was like an investment property. You know what I mean? And so they were just like letting it sit there, right? Well, Brian Kemp just signed the law, that kind of dealt with a lot of the squatters' rights, quote unquote. And now there's been like a lot of people having to vacate these homes they've been targeting these investment homes to live in, because they know it's not going to be somebody's family coming to knock on the door or something. These are bankers that own this place that might not ever visit, right? And so I'm not really sure how that works.
I don't think all these squatters are that very they don't investigate that, and they're not
The way,
a lot
but that is the way it's being covered. That is the way it's being covered right now. Is that these
right.
where they were targeting it in Atlanta is investment properties. That's I don't know. That's what the local news, 11 Alive said. So I don't really just make that up. But anyways, and it makes sense why you would do that. It would be a very smart strategy because the worst thing is like someone's 9 to 5 who's like a property manager who's going to come knock on the door. It's like you're not worried about that person. That person's not going to risk their life to get inside that home. You know what I mean? At best, they'll call the police, and the police will do it, right? So now there's this law. There's been a lot of action going on. Anyways, the squatters own like 25 dogs. They left like 2 dogs in there when they left. Those dogs are unalived then. And the house smells like inside. I've never been inside. This is what I heard. But I know when we walk our dog around that, truly smells something happened in there. You know what I mean? Dogs know that about other dogs. Anyways, I'm loving it. It's good times out here.
You love it.
But no, I like living in a place that no longer has like these people can't just go into your home.
Good. No, I think that's great. I think it's great that there's some pushback going on around the country where these squatters have to get out. Like it's a bunch of BS that landlords or even homeowners can't get people out of their own house. It's absolutely asinine of a situation because this country was built on property rights, among many other things, freedom of speech. This is all very fascinating to me because I believe like when you have a property that you're living at and you're planning to be there for a while, especially owning, you will pay obviously more attention to that particular area, region. It'll affect you. Do you find yourself?
Right, but I'll say that I didn't find the same passion in the YSL trial, which is Young Thug, the rapper. I don't find the same passion in that one, and she's actually the lead DA on that one. But it's just not as entertaining to me. And so I would say that I honestly think I'm less. I don't feel like this is my home at the moment. Like Atlanta is not giving me the homely vibes. I still feel like a visitor in the house of Atlanta, and I don't know. Maybe it'll change. I feel like I'm a guest here, but I'm a guest with some pretty sweet accommodations. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I am worried about security just for the simple fact that I'm in an unknown place. When you're in an unknown environment, you should be aware. You should probably always be aware, to be honest. But that's my main focus right now is making sure we have cameras, we have a great security system. Oh yeah, it's Georgia, by the way, so we have our Second Amendment here. It's pretty sweet. So that's something that's another cool thing about it. One thing I've actually been looking into is where the 2020 riots happened. I'm trying to figure out where those environments are. So and where those are, because I want to know if they happen anywhere near I live. Do they happen 2 miles away? Do they happen 3 miles away? I have no idea.
What would that do to you if you find out they're like kind of close to your house that they were? Does that make you feel good or bad or?
No, it would impact the focus I put on my security.
Mm-hmm.
It would be minded. I would look at it a little bit differently. I would just keep that in mind whenever I'm worried about security. It's like, oh wait, surveillance is not enough. Alarm detection is not enough. Do we have a way to keep people out of the bottom floor?
Damn, dude, you're really thinking about it.
Well, yeah, I think it's important. I mean, somebody's got to, The other person that lives here, my fiance, that's something that's changed since we've had an episode.
Oh yeah, you're engaged now. Congratulations. That's right. That's right.
She's worried about, closet space. We got, I don't know, 5, 6 closets. She owns 4 of them. 4 of them full of clothes.
So she's worried about closet space. You're worried about security. I mean, makes sense.
Absolutely.
When it comes to
I'm worried about. There's 2 things that I worry about, and I will say, here's one thing: in Southern California, you don't have to worry about as much. I'm doing my best to prevent any infestation of bugs because in most of the country it's a more of a humid environment, so that brings mosquitoes and all kinds of bugs and stuff. So I've been putting a lot of research in, sealing my place up.
That's good.
putting some good products in. And so that is one thing I always liked about San Diego and Southern California is the lack of bugs. Like that's such a good thing. Now,
Something I never
to
think
know,
about ever out here, ever. I don't have
well,
to.
if you live in the urban areas, like if you live in like downtown San Diego or something, you're gonna have that problem because of all the food in the area. If you live, but if you live in like a regular neighborhood in San Diego, it's very rare that you'll ever see a roach or anything. You got to really put the effort in. It's a lot like security. The goal of security is to make your place look the least attractive on the block, right? The goal of preventing any sort of infestation of insects or whatever is to make your place the least attractive place on the block.
For them, yeah.
You want to make the other houses, you want the bugs to be able to go in there and get the food. So we got Roombas running all over the place. We never leave our food out. We're sealing this place up. Our trash is not in the garage. We're doing a lot of things to make sure we keep a clean place that bugs don't want to come into.
Spoken like a true rightful homeowner. I love that.
Well, and I'm going to give you one more anecdote because this was something I have no experience with whatsoever. I'm going to bring awareness to rabies. A lot of people don't know about rabies. We saw it in cartoons when we were growing up, and we're like, oh, wow, man with the foamy mouth. But rabies is a real thing, and once you get it, once you're past like 3 days, you're basically not going to be alive anymore. And a lot of people don't realize how severe rabies is. Like, there's not a cure once you're in it. Only if you notice the change.
Not that because of the animals in the nearby area that you're afraid of having rabies. Is that why?
So I was building that picture frame that I showed you earlier, right? I had a rolled up canvas. That canvas was rolled up and the frame wasn't put together. So the thing that I'm about to tell you about, I don't know if it came from the warehouse in LA, which these are common in, or if it was somewhere inside of my house at one point. All right, I haven't figured that out yet. But it was framed. And to my right, there's something brown crawling slowly. And I got to glance at it and I kind of like moved because I had no idea what it was. It's like, shit, rat. It's not a rat. Like, what is that? Is that some kind of weird insect I've never seen in my life? And so the way it works down here is outside, there's an entrance to the backyard with glass windows. And so I go up here because I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I just saw. That was freaky. And so I come around the back way to get a view. And I'm like, is that a bat? And it was a bat.
Oh, it was a bat?
It was a small brown bat crawling
but it was,
on the
wow.
And so I did some Googling. Normally, that's an indication that they're either coming out of hibernation or they're severely dehydrated, right? Now, one thing I think that might have happened actually while we had that bat, behind our house is like kind of like a wooded area, right? And whenever you have two doors that open and close, there's this center thing inside of it where if you don't have it latched and you just have like the regular lock on there, enough wind's going to push that whole thing open, right? Well, our second night in here, the only bed we had came with the place. It was a brand new bed. They left it here in the downstairs bedroom. And we're waiting for our stuff to come from San Diego. So we're sleeping in there, right? And I woke up in the morning and that door is wide open, right? And so I think that bat flew in here because it was like, oh, wow, look at this nice cave here, right? But anyways, I'm like, my biggest thing is I'm worried about rabies. I don't want to get rabies. And I'm like, how am I going to get this thing out of here without getting hit up with the rabies, right? And so I took like a small carton, empty carton of club soda, like a regular soda carton, right? And I kept like, because I was going to like try to bag it, but I was like, what if this thing has one last flight in it before it, you know what I mean? And it uses it at me, right? And I saw Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, I know that's kind of crazy. So I started slowly scooting this carton over and over, and it was kind of like a bat garage, right? And I got it closer and closer, and I went over the side, took a look at it, and I got closer and closer with closer. And then I heard the bat walk into the carton. Like it accepted the ride.
Oh,
so then
wow.
I went and set it outside, put some water next to it so I can get hydrated. Never saw that thing again.
Interesting. So it actually left then.
Well, I had put it outside,
Yeah.
but yeah, it did fly eventually.
Good for you.
I wasn't trying to get rabies. This is the main thing. I wasn't really worried about getting bitten by a bat. I just didn't want to get rabies.
Well,
That's the
you
only
get
thing I
rabies
asked.
by getting bit a lot of time, no?
What's that?
You get rabies by getting bit most of the time.
Oh, either that. The other thing I was concerned about is like another way is that they have like saliva
That's
and it
the
gets into an open wound or something.
yeah.
And I just like fell down my stairs and like had an open cut like on my leg, like right before that. And I was like trying to put this frame together, and I was like, did I slide around and get some bat rabies on my cut? And I was kind of freaking out about it, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. And I was talking to, someone I'm not gonna mention on here, but I was basically like, hey, let me know if I start turning. We need to go to the hospital real quick. And I was ready to go. You have like 1 to 3 days to get that shot in you. I
Yeah.
was like, because I had this thought in my head. How silly would it be to fall on the stairs, cut yourself open, and then put your leg onto bat rabies? Like, what? That would just be a bizarre way to go. I never want to go that way. So
Thank God you did it.
Here with you.
For you. Yes, we got a lot of guests coming on. So coming on very soon, actually, with different backgrounds and stuff like that could talk to us about pressure, business, current events, and community, because that's big in real estate too. So
Right.
if you like this podcast, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and just share with everyone you know. Thank you.